Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Jeremy Corbyn also reaffirmed today his long-standing opposition to Trident. Mr Corbyn told the BBC he'd worked with the SNP to remove nuclear weapons from Scotland. He said, we'll be voting with them on this, or they'll be voting with us, whichever way you want to put it. And that's a vote he'll be putting to the party on the conference floor. Head of a big week for Labour, we hear from Aisha Hazarika, a special advisor, first to Ed Miliband and latterly to Harriet Harman. These are her words.
I've been a Labour advisor for the last 8 years. Before that, I was a stand-up comedian. So I know a thing or two about performance and trying to win rave reviews. As Jeremy Corbyn prepares to step into the spotlight for the first time next week, here's some advice. The leader's speech at conference is a big deal. And it's not good enough to have them rolling in the aisles on the conference floor. You've got to fight for the votes of people watching at home. To most, Jeremy's an unknown quantity, but there's no knowing how people will respond to someone who's so different from what they've been used to. And you don't just need a big performance, you need a big idea. This 2012 speech was, in my view, Ed Miliband's best, and he loved it. His no-notes delivery was passionate, and it had a strong message which spoke to his values.
That spirit of one nation, a country where everyone has a stake.
The reason this speech was so good was that Ed and his speechwriter Mark Steers had a small team working with them, and most importantly, a lot of time to craft, hone and practice. Leaders often start working on their conference speeches in the summer. Jeremy clearly didn't have that luxury as he was battling for the Labour leadership. And while he successfully crowdsourced his first Prime Minister's questions, it's impossible to crowdsource a leader's speech at conference. It already seems like another age, but Jeremy was only elected 2 weeks ago, and he spent most of his political career heckling from the sidelines. Now he's the guy in the spotlight. Recent polling from YouGov illustrates the challenge that Jeremy Corbyn faces. 81% of his supporters consider themselves very or fairly left-wing. This compares with 15% of potential Labour voters and 40% of firm Labour voters. Many media perils lie ahead. Any deviation away from the text of the speech given to the press will be subject to acres of conspiracy or cock-up theories. This can massively skew how the speech is received, and things can unravel quickly. A speech which was a triumph at 4 p.m. in the conference hall can be a calamity by breakfast, and that's when the leader has to do a gruelling and often brutal round of broadcast interviews. Jeremy Corbyn will definitely face a barrage of hostile questions after his speech, and his team need to be ready for it. He may not read his reviews the next day, but party members and voters will. I've written loads of gags for politicians. It's tough enough pitching gags to them, but imagine what it's like having to impress Eddie Izzard. Talk about a tough crowd. On the eve of a major conference speech, myself and 2 other advisors were thrown into a room, given an hour and told to come up with jokes. None of our comedy gold ever saw the light of day, and probably for the best. Is this on? Now, I know Jeremy says that he's not a fan of comedy or theatrics in politics, but I do urge him to think again, because a good gag can create a feel-good factor and help you address elephants in the room.
To Cherie, I mean, well, at least I don't have to worry about her running off with the bloke next door.
But for a gag to really hit home, it's got to be authentic and it's got to speak to a deeper political truth. When Gordon Brown took over as Prime Minister, there was speculation that Tony Blair may run for President of Europe.
And then the awful moment when the motorcade of the President of Europe sweeps into Downing Street. The gritted teeth and bitten nails. The Prime Minister emerging from his door with a smile of intolerable anguish. The choking sensation as the words "Mr. President" are forced on his mouth. And then once in the cabinet room, the melodrama of "When will you hand over to me?" all over again.
Comedy that was once at the cutting edge is often replaced by something which can seem surreal and even subversive at the time, but goes on to be a great success. And maybe the same could be true for politics as well. By winning the Labour leadership contest, Jeremy Corbyn has ripped up the political playbook. And why should he take any advice from someone like me, an ex-stand-up spin doctor? But Jeremy's been working with the same political material for the last 30 years and playing to very friendly small crowds. The question is, can he make the leap to the big stage?